settlers are just armed to the teeth, and you could not have anything that could be construed as a weapon. I was in a car with some Palestinians, and I had a nail file, and I was shaking, so scared, because of course everyone who's, 13 and above has been in and out of prison, right? And I was so terrified because we were stopped at one of these checkpoints, and the soldier, first he said, "You're with terrorists. Why you guys are Palestinians?" Because we were white. And then when I realized I had that nail file in my purse, I was terrified that someone that was driving me simply could go back to prison for 10 years because I had a nail file or something that could be construed as a weapon. And he just was, he just said, "Yeah, why are you so scared?" He said, "We go through this multiple times a day." So just the settler attacks alone are just so terrifying. I can't imagine being surrounded by settlements and settlers who want you dead. And it's not just cohabitation, it's not just, we're just living on this land together. They want your village. They want to take all the land. I just can't imagine.
So as you said also, they used to demonstrate because they wanted to kill the last person from the Dawabsha family. And also, they used to hold banners that said Ali on the grill. Ali is the 18-month-old baby that was buried. And it was really terrifying because after that, it was that time where settler attacks were just popular. And like all the villages were just getting raided. And it's really terrifying because, as a child, and it was very scary. We had those fences on our windows, and sometimes I couldn't sleep at night because I would be like really terrified. Maybe our house is gonna get burned, like Ahmed's house or something. And it is really terrifying, and that's why we're trying to fight against all of that, because we don't want those children to live this childhood, like the next generation to live the childhood that we're living right now, to see all those checkpoints in their ways. And also those settlements or those settlers, they just want our land, and they just want to kick us out of our land. And like even the settlements are Jewish-only settlements concentrated on a Palestinian land in the West Bank, and it's basically even normalized by the American government and by a lot of other governments around the world, although settlements are illegal. So.
Yeah, it was interesting because we didn't spend too much time in the 48 borders when we were there, but we drove through it a little bit. We tried not to stay in there too long. But it was interesting because most of it is just empty land. And as you mentioned, 68% of the West Bank is illegal settlements. And so it's not like the Israeli territory is just full of settlers and they need to go into the West Bank and expand out into Nabi Saleh because they ran out of room in Israel and they have too many settlers and they need more space, and so that's what's causing them to go out. And the ones that are illegal, even under Israeli law, there's legal Israeli settlements and there's illegal Israeli settlements also. And so it's like, why are they doing that, right? It's not that there's plenty of land to settle, but there's a particular mission to take over where you are living. Right? And it's not just that, Nabi Saleh was such a beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. You can see the settlement nearby, but it's not just about the way it's portrayed in American media is two people living side by side. You have settlers here, you have Palestinians here, and they can't get along. But it's not that, it's the settlers there are more and more taking more and more bites out of Palestine. And so I wanted you to talk about that side of it and the things that you've done to prevent that. Because all over, there's demolition orders constantly for businesses, for homes, and there's all sorts of ways that children and civilians and others try to resist that, but it's an ongoing thing. It's not just about going to the protest and getting repressed at the protest, or dealing with a settler attack or a raid, but there's this daily struggle to keep your village Nabi Saleh, so it doesn't get bulldozed over and renamed an Israeli name and turned into another Israeli settlement.
As you said, it's already renamed. It is called Nebuchadnezzar, though. As you said, there is room in occupied Palestine, but it's Palestine too. So even from the roof of my house, every single morning I can see the Mediterranean Sea from Yafa, which is only 30 minutes far from my house. But I've only went once without a permit to 48 occupied Palestine because I can't go as a Palestinian child having a Palestinian passport. And there are a lot of demolishing orders. 70% of Nebuchadnezzar itself is Area C. So we have Area A, Area B, and Area C. Area A is fully controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Area B it's controlled by the Israeli Authority, but Palestinians are living there. And Area C is fully controlled by the Israeli Authority. And if you build there, if your house is even built there before like 67 or before 48, it's gonna get demolished because it's basically built in that land. And just imagine there's about 15 houses in Nebuchadnezzar that has demolishing orders, and that's why actually we started our demonstrations in 2009 because more lands were getting stolen, and even they reached to a point where they stole our main water resources in Nebuchadnezzar, which is the water spring, which is called Janna. So this water spring was supplying like all the houses in Nebuchadnezzar and whatever, and then this settlement took over it, and they started to have 48 hours of running water a day. But when they took over it, we started only having 12 hours of running water a week, and like that's why you see the settlement as having like those green amazing trees, and we're having this dry land. And they're also trying to say, oh my God, look, the Palestinians are not taking care of their land, but we cannot take care of it because we don't have enough water. And even like olive trees are getting burned, like the land is getting burned, like a lot of animals. I don't know. It's just super complicated, and it's super sad to see all of that. And we stand up for it. And you know, without those demonstrations, a lot of houses would have been demolished. A lot of more lands would have been stolen. Even like whenever they would just try to steal more land, we would just go and sit in this land. Although we would get shot, a lot of people would get arrested. But we try as much as we can because it's our land, and it's super hard to just think about becoming a refugee and just being kicked out of your land. And even as I said, we have Area A, which is fully controlled by the Palestinian Authority, and they're not supposed to enter that land. But like 3 weeks ago, there was 16 buildings in Wadi Hummus that were demolished, and they were in Area A because the thing that they said, it was right next to a apartheid wall, and they said for security reasons, but they just wanted to expand it, build a settlement on that land. And 16 buildings were demolished. 120 families were kicked out of their houses, and they became refugees. And you know, Palestinian families would be like their 6 children and the 2 parents. Just imagine, like thousands of people became refugees again. And that's not but 2019, and it's still going on. And people are just normalizing all of that